time and the living's easy. Riders on the microphone, Ross MG. All the people in the dance will agree that we're well qualified to represent the LBC. Me and Louis and young run to the body and dance to the rhythm, it gets harder. Me and my girl, we got this relationship. I love her so bad, but she treats me like a...
Well, we just dismasted, launched off a huge wave, down a very, very bad way. I'm at a significant risk of punching a hole in the side of the boat right now, so let's try to sort that out. Well, this is quite a precarious situation right now because it's still blowing like close to 30 knots. There's very big seas, and there's a huge storm headed in 2 days to this location. I can't recover the rig and the boom and everything right now. It's already grinding into the hull. If I cut everything away, I have no chance of setting a jury rig, and I don't have enough fuel to get to shore. I don't have enough horsepower to motor upwind, and again, there's a really bad storm coming, so this is not a great scenario. At least I'm safe, and there are ships around, but you can probably hear the rig behind me, like rubbing on the hull and making a bunch of noise with the rigging. But this is a really bad scenario. Like I'm physically okay. I don't think I'm in huge danger, but I felt, I mean, we were launching off waves for fucking the last 24 hours, and I felt the boat launch off a huge wave. I held my breath, and then we landed. Bang, bang, bang. I heard everything come down on deck. Close reaching, so like more or less upwind. Launching off waves at like 9 or 10 knots. Little update, but given the scenario that I'm in, there is a really big depression with very, very big seas coming in like 30 hours. I was racing to try to stay ahead of that, and now that's not going to happen. I have requested a rescue. I have activated my EPIRB. At this point, I do feel like, unfortunately, I do feel like getting off the boat is the best scenario. That's a very dangerous storm coming as well. When a boat has no mast, it's very, very unstable. And I'm rolling horribly right now. I've deployed a drogue off the stern, trying to keep our stern to the seas. I've cut away most of the rig. It's not going to poke a hole in the boat anymore. I'm going to figure out what to do with that in the morning. It's a really, really, really shitty scenario. But I am going to be trying to get off the boat. And this is probably the end of the line for the boat as well. So it's a really, really difficult scenario. I did not want the race to end this way. It's about noon my time, which is 2 hours ahead of the East Coast, 3 hours behind UTC. I dismasted about 12 and a half hours ago, and you know, the situation, just so people understand the situation, there's a huge storm coming. There's a big depression coming, which it's gonna have like well over 50 knots of breeze, and at my position it's supposed to have seas of like 7 meters, so you're talking like 23, 24 feet, and those are gonna be heavily breaking 24-foot seas, which when you're on a boat with no masts, there's like no stability. So the thing is already super rolly, and the real concern is getting rolled and not coming back up. There's some questions whether this boat would actually right itself or not. I could play with the water ballast and try to get it to, but I'd prefer to not invert the boat. This is an older boat. It does not have an escape hatch if I invert, so I was planning on being down below with a life raft and everything else in case I had to like kind of bail out through the hatch. But last night when I dismasted, I was sailing under 3 reefs and a storm jib. I was doing like 9.5 knots at boat speed. It was blowing 35 to 40, 35 to 38. And shortly after the front passed, where the seas got all crossed up, you know, the seas were admittedly very bad, and I was already in 3 reefs and a storm jib. I was trying to be cautious, and you know, the boat was launching off some waves, and I had even changed my point of sail to like try to prevent that. But I was also still trying to go upwind to get back to Europe. You know, I was between a rock and a hard spot, and I felt the boat launch off one wave particularly bad, and it launched off this wave, and when it came down, it just came down with a bang, and I heard a bunch of big parts falling on top of the deck, and that was the mast. So I immediately popped up and looked at it, and I said, well, I just dismasted. So the first thing I did was I sent out a couple of text messages, and then I just assessed the situation, and the mast was pressed against the starboard side of the boat, and I was in like big seas and a lot of wind when it happened, and the mast was banging into the side of the boat, and it was damaging the side of the boat, and I was really worried about damaging the hull and taking on water. And so whenever you dismast a sailboat, that's one of the big dangers, is that you could poke a hole in the side of the boat and you could sink. So I made the very tough decision to cut the mast away because I was very worried about sinking. I wanted to stabilize the boat, and maybe that was the right decision, maybe it wasn't, because again, without a mast, you're like very unstable. So I ended up cutting the mast away, stabilizing the situation, started talking to different people and talking to the Coast Guard and talking to the guys in Argentina, and we tried to reach out to a couple of ships, including this one, the Sakizaya Youth, but no one could be reached for like over 11 hours, which was really frustrating. That there were actually 2 ships close to my position, but neither one of them could be reached. But about 11 hours later, the Argentinian authorities managed to reach the parent company of a Pakistani ship called the Sakizaya Youth, and Sakizaya Youth has turned around and they're headed to my position. And as you can see right now, it's actually, this is the calm sort of before the storm tomorrow and after the storm last night. So the seas are still really chopped up, and I'm going straight into them. I can only go about 2 knots because I have a small motor on this boat because she's a racing boat. And I'm going straight into the wind and straight into the seas, but now the Sakizaya Youth has turned around and they're going downwind. So they're going 14 knots towards me. Hopefully we have a closing speed of 16 knots, and we can hopefully come together in 6 or 7 hours, and that gives us a fighting chance of pulling this off before dark. It's going to be really close if we can get this done before dark. It's an incredibly challenging situation to have dismasted and then having literally like some of the worst waves of the entire race coming down on me less than 24 hours later. So my entire trip up the Atlantic was really bad. I had very unfortunate weather. I had sailed over 20,000 miles and been around all 3 Great Capes, and incident free. You know, I had a little pit stop in Tasmania, and We checked the mast, we checked everything. Everything looked fine. I'm not sure what failed last night. I don't know what failed last night, and unfortunately I wasn't able to recover the mast to do the forensics, so I guess I'll never really know. Definitely not out of the woods yet. This is a really precarious situation, and I definitely thought about, like, let's try to get the rig back on board. Let's try to, you know, set a jury rig and get back to shore and all that. That's the seaman-like thing to do. But by the other token, there's a huge storm bearing down on me, and my mast was significantly damaging the side of the hull. You could see the boat flexing. Like, you could see it flexing and trying to bust. So I had to grind it away and cut it away. Again, I'll never know if that was the right decision, but it's the decision I had to make, and it's the decision I did make. So definitely a very precarious situation, but just trying to live to fight another day. And it's immensely frustrating, and it's very, very sad, and it's really heartbreaking to put my heart and my soul and all of my finances and every waking moment for the last year and a half has gone into this race. And I was past Cape Horn. I was 3/4 of the way around the world. I was coming back up the Atlantic, and I was still in third place. And the mast came down. So it's incredibly challenging and heartbreaking scenario, but I just want to try to survive this and live to fight another day. It's a really, really bad and precarious situation that I'm in. And so right now I'm motoring west-southwest. Normally I motor at about 5 knots, but I'm going into the wind and into the waves and into the current. So right now I'm only going about 2 knots, 2.5 knots. But again, the ship is going 14 knots, so hopefully we have a closing speed of 16 knots, and hopefully I can get rescued tonight. And again, it's just the dynamic of the weather. The weather has been really, really brutal to me the entire way up the Atlantic. I didn't see any of my other competitors get these upwind conditions for several days, 40 knots. And it was a nasty little storm I was in yesterday. It was just this little depression that came off the continent. And I had written about it in my blog and also on Instagram. I was quite worried about that system even 2 days ago. I had a bad feeling about it, and I didn't think I was going to dismast though. And I was 3 reefs in a storm jib. I was already being as cautious as I could be, and every day I was just trying not to break the boat and trying to strike that balance of getting back to Spain quickly, but also managing the boat and keeping it one piece and finishing. So I want to thank everyone for all your messages. I'm not responding to like any of them because I'm busy. I'm just looking at them to clear them, and thank you everyone for your messages. I appreciate them. So I'll keep you guys updated. There's a good chance that I will not have internet for a couple days when I get on the ship, but we'll figure out a way to keep you guys updated. So thanks everyone for your support, and see you soon. All right, well, here we go. It's about 5 miles until the ship gets here, and they're going about 15 knots. I'm going like 2 knots, so our closing speed is 16, 17 knots, and should be together in 20, 30 minutes. I'm sure they'll slow down upon approach. As you can see, we've still got some daylight, but it is going to be sunset very soon. It's going to be sunset very soon. The conditions are going to deteriorate substantially starting right after sunset. So if this actually works out smoothly right here at sunset, which it should, then yeah, best case scenario. So I am in touch with the ship. I just made visual contact with them. I just saw them in the binoculars 5 miles out. There's a little bit of a marine layer. So I just saw them 5 miles out, and they're gonna rapidly get bigger here. And I'm gonna launch another flare off in a couple miles. I launched one off at 10 miles and they did not see it, but I'll pop another one up at 3 miles, or here in just a moment. And it's really, really not how I wanted this race to end, and really not how I wanted this boat to end, but it is what it is. Live to fight another day, and it's a really, really difficult and challenging scenario, but I think that given the scenario, I think it's the right decision. Live to fight another day, and it doesn't make it any easier though. So thank you guys for all your support. I've had a ton of people send me messages today and start following today, and thank you guys for your support. Really, really emotional, and it's not even bittersweet. It's really just all bitter. Just a really, really emotional and very upsetting ends to this journey. But it'll all make sense at some point. So, all right, guys. Hopefully in an hour, hour and a half, I'm on the ship. So.